Story time of how I figured out that my sister was trying to kill me. So me and my sister were like best friends when we were little, but she was a very, very jealous person. So years and years go on, but her jealousy seems to start to grow. So I never really thought about it until I found out that she really wanted me dead. But throughout the years, she would do little things to get me hurt. For example, she pushed me off the top of our treehouse and I ended up breaking my arm. But every time I got hurt, my family would baby me and she would get even more mad. So at this time, we're about 16 years old, and I had to go in her room to get her laundry. And under her laundry, I found her diary, or journal, or whatever you call it. I was flipping through the pages, I found out some interesting and crazy things. Then one was named The Perfect Murder. What an original name. She had this big, huge dresser in her room. She went into a lot of detail about how she was going to kill me. But it stated that she was going to push the dresser on top of me and jump on it until I, then scream for help. I'm running out of time, like for part 2. Part 2 of how I found out that my sister was trying to kill me. Continuing on with the story, after I read what I read in her diary, I decided it was best to keep it to myself. So about a month and a half later, I start to think to myself and I'm like, okay, maybe she's not actually gonna do it. Y'all, I don't know why, but I was literally not scared that my sister was like about to kill me. So about 2.5 months after I read what I read in her diary, she calls me into her room and in this fakest voice ever goes, "Sissy, why are you being so distant from me?" I just looked at her like she was crazy. Then she goes, "I know you read my diary." At that exact moment, she looked psycho. I don't know what I was thinking, but right after she said that, my reflex was to knock her out. So I knocked her out, then I stomped on her head. I called my mom into the room and read her the diary, or whatever the heck my sister put in there. Mind you, while I'm reading my mom this diary, she's still knocked out on the floor. My mom then continues to say she's going to put her in a mental hospital. So to this day, my sister's in a mental hospital, and if you're listening to this and you ever get out, please don't kill me. I'm actually living an amazing life right now.
Story time about how my grandmother predicted that I would get kidnapped when I was 14 years old. Disclaimer, this is not my story time, it's sending me on Instagram. My grandmother and I have always had a very close relationship. We're Mexican and my grandmother believes in ghosts and legends. In the town that we lived in, there was always a legend about girls who got kidnapped. When I turned 7 years old, my grandmother told me that I would be kidnapped when I was 14 years old. My parents and I didn't believe her. My grandmother never let me out of her sight after that. Even if I was going to go to the park and play, she would always come with me. It wasn't until I turned 14 years old that it happened. I was walking home from school and it was the first time that I was walking home by myself. Somebody was always there to pick me up, but this time no one was there. The crazy thing is that my grandmother got confused on the day, so my parents didn't think that they needed to go pick me up because they thought my grandma would. As I turned a corner, a man snatched me up and put me in his car, and he had the scariest mask on. He looked like the devil. My grandmother instantly knew that something had happened to me. She ran over to my school, but I wasn't there anymore. For 2 hours, the man drove me around in his car looking for a perfect spot. Whenever I would ask him where he was taking me, all he would say was, "I'm looking for privacy." When he first took me, he tied my hands behind my back. He threw me in the back of the car, and every now and then he would turn around and grab at my clothes. He was trying to rip the clothes off of me, but every time he would try to grab my clothes, I would bite him really hard. I made him bleed several times, but this only made him angrier. We finally stopped in a supermarket parking lot. That's when he told me to stay quiet and he left the car. But I was more afraid of what he would do with me if I stayed than if I left. I managed to get out of the car without him seeing me. I ran for a minute before I heard him screaming behind me. Reached a highway and a woman stopped her car to help me. She took me back to my parents' house and that's when I found out my grandmother had had a heart attack. She knew that I was kidnapped and my parents went crazy. They took me to the hospital, but I was actually okay. I went into therapy for years after that. Legend has it the man is still kidnapping girls. I drive my car every single night in the same route that he drove me. What should I do when I find him?
Imagine being a 35-year-old female teacher who sleeps with her 13-year-old 6th grade student. Then imagine getting pregnant by that same student twice. Okay, so boom, let's jump right into it. Mary Kay Letourneau was a middle school teacher in Seattle with her husband and 4 kids. Her student/victim, Villy, was in her 2nd grade class, then again in her 6th grade class. He was 13 years old, 1 year older than her 12-year-old son. This relationship went on for a couple months until one night later that year, a police officer caught Mary and Villy in the backseat of her car. She only had on panties and a tank while Villy fake slept. She told the officer that he was 19, but the officer took them to the police station and verified his age. Unfortunately, they ended up calling Villy's mom, and Villy's mom trusted Mary. Villy was supposed to be at Mary's house having a sleepover with her son, so the officers let them go. Mary's husband, Steve, ended up finding love letters between Mary and Villy. He told a family member about his wife's affair with a child, and then he ended up getting full custody of all 4 of their kids, divorced her, and moved to Alaska. And that family member that her husband told is who ended up reporting her. She was arrested and charged with R, and while she was waiting for trial, she found out she was pregnant. She eventually gave birth and custody was given to Billy's mom. She was sentenced to 7 years in prison, but took a plea deal to only do 6 months and have no contact with Billy or any of her kids. After doing her 6 months, 2 weeks after she was released, she and Billy again was found in a backseat of her car by a police officer where they said the windows looked steamy. She had to now serve her full 7-year term. This is where she found out she was pregnant by Billy again and had to give birth while she was serving her term. After serving her full 7 years, Billy asked to remove the no contact order and they got married when Billy was 21. She says in many interviews that they do together that they were in love and what she did to him was not wrong. You can see in many interviews with Mary and Billy that she says that he was the one who pursued her. He was the boss. He's the one who wanted her. It was all him. 13-year-old Billy is the one who caused all of this. Not her, the 35-year-old adult in this situation. A couple years later, they got a divorce where Billy said that he was ready for a healthy relationship now. She passed away from colon cancer and left her whole estate to Billy and not her kids.
I put peanut butter in my friend's drink, thinking she was lying about her allergy. I was young, only in the 2nd grade, and had recently been taught about lying. After our lessons on sinning and doing bad stuff, I developed the idea that my friend, let's call her Lily, was lying about her peanut allergy and just didn't like peanut butter and was too ashamed to tell me because they were my favorite snack at the time. Not to mention the times when someone would bring in a snack for the class and we'd always have to check if they had peanuts in them. If they did, the whole class couldn't eat them so that she wouldn't feel left out. I was tired of what I thought was a dumb, made-up lie and decided to take matters into my own hands by bringing a jar of peanut butter and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Once it's snack break, I waited until Lily went to the bathroom to take out my peanut butter jar to slip a spoonful into her cup, shaking it good so she wouldn't suspect a thing. When she came back, she sat down and drank some of her peanut butter-infused water. As she did, I watched with wide eyes, making sure to take in every detail, now convinced that she's been lying the whole time. Suddenly, Lily started coughing uncontrollably, choking and thrashing herself all over the floor. It also didn't help that she forgot her EpiPen at home that day, causing her to convulse and forcing my teacher to call the ambulance. It turned out she was severely allergic to peanut butter, and I never had the goal to tell her what I had done that day. We're still friends today, and she strongly believes that her father was trying to kill her that day since she got into a fight with him the day before regarding her dead mother.
Last night at 3:30, it's completely dark and I hear this knock on my door. I roll over and look at the time on my phone and I'm thinking to myself, there's no way I'm getting out of bed right now. So I try to fall back asleep, but the knocks keep getting louder. This girl I was with was like, aren't you gonna answer that? I'm like, yeah, you're right. So I drag myself downstairs and open the door. I opened the door and there he was, just standing on the porch. And it didn't take long for me to realize that he was drunk. He starts slurring his words and he's like, hi there, can you give me a push? I'm like, nah, get lost. It's 3:30. I was in bed and I slammed the door. I go back upstairs and tell the girl what happened, and she's like, well, that wasn't very nice of you. She was like, remember that time your car broke down in the pouring rain and you had to go knock on that stranger's door so he could jumpstart your car? She said, what would have happened to us if he told us to get lost? I was like, but that guy was drunk. She was like, it doesn't matter. I was annoyed, but I understood her point, so I got out of bed. I go downstairs and I open the front door, but I don't see him, so I just yell, hey, you still need a push? And I hear his voice cry out, yeah, please. I still don't see where he's at though, so I yell, where are you? Then he yells back, over here, on the swing, give me a push.
I cut this one chick out of my life. Let me know if you would do the same thing. This was years ago and I was thinking about it yesterday and I was like, was that too much? But no, I'm still angry. Let me just say, I'm not a reactive person. I don't have a history of like cutting people out of my life. Even when I hear this happening to other people, I'm like, this quality irks me. Okay, I'll tell you what happened. So I met this girl at one of the restaurants I worked at and she was the HR person. She wasn't like a server or bartender or anything. This was her full-time job. I told her I liked her hair and she's like, oh, I actually did it myself. I used to be a hairdresser. I was like, sick, do you want to do mine? And she's like, sure, just come by my house so you can pay me cash. Because again, hairdressing is no longer her full-time job, but she has some stuff at her house. Cool, so I start going to her. She's doing my hair for, I want to say like a year. And in that time, I bring like 4 other girlfriends of mine over to her place to get their hair done. At this point, this is just like a sick side hustle for her because she's not a professional hairdresser anymore. She's just word of mouth and I'm bringing her business and she's doing my hair. Cool. I kind of stopped going in just because I wasn't blonde anymore. I was just like chilling with my hair, like not really getting it done. And she messages me one day and she's like, I miss you. Come in, let me do your hair. So I'm thinking, okay, but like, I don't need my hair done. So are you saying I miss you, come in and let me do your hair because you brought me all this business and now I want to do your hair for free? Or are you saying I miss you, come in here and give me your money? But either way, I'm like, yeah, I'll book with you soon. Maybe a month after that, she sends me this message and she goes, hey Sam, my dad's in town. He really wants to go to a Raptors game. He's only here till Sunday and this is on Friday. Do you have a plug for tickets? Now to put this in perspective, this was in 2018, maybe even 2019. Regardless, it was the Raptors championship year. Raptors are on an absolute heater. She wants tickets in 2 days from now. And she's essentially saying, I don't want to spend full price on them because you could just get them online. Just started dating Joe and he happened to have seasons tickets. And I was like, did you sell your tickets for Monday? He's like, no. I'm like, well, you sell them to my hairdresser at cost. He goes, okay, well, will she give you a deal on your hair? I'm like, I'm sure she will. Anyway, whatever. I get her the tickets. She goes to the game and then silent. Doesn't say thank you. Doesn't say whatever. So I message her and I go, how was the game? She goes, oh my God, it was great. My dad loved it. Thank you. And that's it. So then I go, okay, let's plan a day for me to come get my hair done. I'm taking matters into my own hands now. Not that I needed my hair done. This is all on principle. Let me remind you, she had brought this up before I even gave her tickets to the game. She's like, yeah, for sure, babe. Sends me a link to the salon she's now working at and just says, book yourself in whenever I'm free. Didn't even say thank you the day after the game. You know what it is? It's not even about like, give me money, give me praise, give me thank you. It's just, I can't hang out with someone with that little class.